After more than 500 days of waiting, it's finally happening. Jacob deGrom is officially coming back this week.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer's return happening this week, an absolute stinker of a World Series Game 5 rematch, and unfortunately, some injury news on the pitching prospect front. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, the Rangers have some very exciting starting pitchers happening this week, mainly in the series in Seattle, although seeing Nathan Eovaldi on the hill in the place where the Rangers did the most important thing in the history of humanity was fun until things went sideways. I'll talk about that more a little later in the show. They have Cody Bradford on the hill this afternoon on Wednesday, which is honestly very exciting for me, and for Rangers fans, you should be excited too. The Rangers turning a 6th-round pick, a guy with shoulder issues, a former Big 12 pitcher of the year, and a hometown kid, the Aledo native, into the first competent homegrown starter in many, many moons. His development is something we should all be watching very, very closely from now till the end of the season. Then on Thursday, the Rangers have Kumar Rocker, a future homegrown potential ace, if not just pretty darn good starting pitching prospect, the most excited I've ever been about a Texas Rangers pitching prospect. His major league debut on Thursday. On Friday, Jacob deGrom will make his first start in 504 days. And then on Saturday, it will be Max Scherzer making his return to the mound with the Texas Rangers after throwing 4 rehab innings last Saturday. Sunday, TBD at this point. We'll see if it ends up being Andrew Heaney, or if it ends up being Jack Leiter, or if Jack Leiter does some sort of piggybacking combination off of either deGrom or maybe off of Scherzer. But either way, the king has returned, will return. It is happening. There are, I don't believe, any more bullpens or anything, knock on wood, that could go wrong. We finally have a date. 504 days later, Jacob deGrom is going to pitch for the Texas freaking Rangers in a baseball game for the first time since April 28th of last year. I am stoked out of my freaking mind. I cannot wait to watch it. My favorite thing, watching Texas Rangers baseball outside of watching them win the World Series, also beating the Houston Astros in the playoffs, was an absolute delight. Watching my large adult son, Joseph Nicholas Gallo, hit big, bad home runs was very, very fun. But I think even more fun than that, maybe not quite as fun as the other 2 franchise-changing, life-changing moments, was watching Jacob deGrom throw baseballs in a Texas Rangers uniform. I mean, the guy is absolutely special. And I think that we forget a lot of times when we discuss Jacob deGrom, it's always about, okay, how is the elbow holding up? How is, this holding up? How many innings is he going to pitch? How many pitches is he going to throw? How long is he going to be out for? Blah, 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 blah. And I get why that happens. And we also talk about how, oh, well, this guy's making so much money to not throw baseballs. What a stupid contract, blah, 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 blah. And there's some merit to those discussions. There's definitely a reason to have those discussions. It's inarguable that so far Jacob deGrom has not really lived up to that contract, albeit the Rangers won a World Series. They got 6 starts and 30 1/3 innings from him last year, and they made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth And so, therefore, every single Jacob deGrom start was massively important. The Rangers went undefeated in those 6 starts, which is 6 wins that they don't get maybe with a lesser starting pitcher starting in place of him. But it is taking away. All of that is fine and needs to be talked about, but with Jacob deGrom returning, it takes away and makes us forget. And because it's been so long, and because it's been, unfortunately, so infrequently, because a pitcher who throws that perfectly apparently can't be made of the most indestructible parts. If someone finds an indestructible UCL and you only have one person to give it to, well, maybe at this point give it to Kumar Rocker, or probably give it to Jacob deGrom. Because when this guy is on the mound, when he is throwing, he is special. And all of the frustrations and debates and nitpicking and just nonsense about that, we tend to forget that. I mean, I know it's back of our minds of, oh yeah, this guy's amazing when he's healthy, but when's he healthy? And, he's never going to be healthy. He's never going to throw 200 innings. And no, Nolan Ryan would have thrown a bazillion innings if he had that arm, whatever. But don't let that make you forget about how special watching this guy is. I mean, his first start on opening day, the opening line wasn't great, and he got kind of BABIP to death. But that first inning where he's just, dotting the corners at 99, 100, 100, again and again and again with the nastiest slider I think this world has ever seen. Just remember that he plays for your favorite team. And the Rangers won a World Series with him on that team. And every single outing out there, as infrequently as they've been, is an absolute gosh darn delight that other teams let him come to the Rangers, that they didn't think he was worth this money. I mean, it's easy to say if it's your money that, I would have rather been spending $40 million on someone who was pitching. But if it's not your money, if he's on your team and your team won a World Series with him, just say, yeah, the contract worked. All those moves, everything the Rangers did leading up to that is a net success. If you get your first championship in your franchise's history, everything that led there, no matter what happens afterward, is a success. I mean, heck, look at the Nats and what they gave Patrick Corbin and Steven Strasburg and how those two have fared since their World Series championship. And also they had to trade away Juan Soto. And also they lost Bryce Harper the year before. And also they traded away Max Scherzer and, of course, their shortstop, Trey Turner. But they don't really care all that much because flags fly forever. I'm sure they care a little bit. But still, don't let all of the nonsense surrounding the Jacob deGrom discourse make you forget that this guy is one of one. He is a special, special pitcher, and every time he goes out there is a special experience. And, for him, he is a 2-time Cy Young winner. He has won a World Series. He's got an ERA title. He is a 4-time All-Star, surprisingly only 4 times. He's also won Rookie of the Year. And unfortunately, on his baseball reference page, it does not have World Series champion up there at the top, which I have many qualms about because he is a World Series champ. He was on the roster, not active, but he still contributed to that World Series. But every time he goes out there right now, he is very much on the borderline of being a Hall of Famer or not. I think if he retired today, if he didn't throw another pitch, it would be really close, but I'm not sure that he would get in. But having at least one more great season with the Rangers, which I'm hoping is coming next year, and hopefully, another great season after that, and another great season after that. But still, he is right there on the borderline. You look at his career baseball reference WAR, usually about 50 WAR. If you get to about 50 WAR, then you're pretty much going to get in, especially if you have the kind of special peak that deGrom had. I know the injuries have kind of sapped that, and the overall counting stats aren't going to stack up as well, but he's at 44.8 career baseball reference WAR, a 2.53 ERA in 215 career starts, somehow only 84 wins in that span. Not that pitcher wins matter all that much, but it's kind of hilarious that he has been pretty much one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in baseball since, 2015. So for nearly a decade. And his career high in wins was 15, which was the year he had the highest ERA of his career. He had a 1.70 ERA. He went 10-9 for the Mets. Meanwhile, Justin Verlander is hoping to eventually chase down 300 wins for his career. It's probably not going to happen because he's about, I think, 50 or 40 wins away. Scherzer's at 216 in his 17 years in the big leagues. Just something to keep an eye on. So every single start, every single counting stat, every single extra strikeout and inning and ERA lowering experience that he has on a big league mound is going to mean something in his case to be a Hall of Famer. And if he goes into the Hall of Fame, and if he wins another Cy Young with Texas, and heck, if he wins another World Series with Texas, both of which I think are possible, and I don't know about likely, but definitely possible, and he might just go into the Hall of Fame with the Texas Rangers cap, making him just, at that point, probably the third player in MLB history, in the Baseball Hall of Fame history, to go into the Hall of Fame with a Texas Rangers cap. I believe that is accurate. Maybe there's four at this point with Beltre, but still not all that many, and he will cement himself among one of the greatest players, one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history, just getting back on the mound, getting those stats up, and just don't forget to absolutely enjoy it. I think he's probably going to pitch around 5 innings, somewhere in the 65 to 70 pitch mark. In his last start, he threw 49 pitches in 4 innings. I'm guessing that's about where he is going to be targeting. Scherzer, who threw 4 innings, I did say, I believe earlier this week, that I thought that Scherzer threw 2 innings in his rehab start, went back and looked it back up, and he threw 4 innings in that rehab start. He'll be starting on Saturday. I'm guessing he will also be targeting around 5 innings in his start, but the 2 big guns are coming back, and even though the Rangers are pretty much out of it, still, don't forget how special this guy is and what a treat we are in for late on Friday night. Coming up, we're going to talk about last night's game, a rematch of Game 5 of the World Series that did not go the Rangers' way, and a Rangers pitching prospect, unfortunately, going under the knife. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Gametime. Going to live events is the best, just like getting those tickets to live events is the best when you are getting those tickets on Gametime. If you're looking to go to whatever kind of event, whether it's sports, concerts, music, comedy, theater, and more, there is no better place to get those tickets than Gametime. The Rangers will be home next week, and we will hopefully, if things go well, and everything is good and like it should be, next week you'll maybe have the chance to go see Jacob deGrom pitch in person in Arlington, and also maybe Kumar Rocker, maybe Max Scherzer as well. And if you go get those tickets, you got to get them on Gametime. It is the best and easiest way to get those tickets. They've also got Gametime Picks, which filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers take on the Diamondbacks today, 2:40 p.m. Central Time. First pitch, Cody Bradford versus Merrill Kelly. You can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, last night was a lovely setup for a game, a rematch of the decisive Game 5 of the 2023 World Series, the most important event in human history. Nate Eovaldi versus Zach Gallen, and, well, it didn't quite go as well as the last time these two starting pitchers faced off. Still, one of the few times in the last 20 years where the decisive pitchers, or the starting pitchers in the decisive game, faced off the very next season. Eovaldi just 7 innings shy of hitting that 154 inning mark to get his vesting option triggered for next year, $20 million player option for next season if he pitches a combined 300 innings last year and this year. He needs just now 2 more innings to do so. 5 innings pitched last night, 4 runs, all of them earned, all of them via the home run. He looked a little bit like the Nate Eovaldi of Game 5 from last year in that he was really limiting those Diamondbacks, their hits with runners in scoring position. Zach Gallen looked incredible yet again. Unfortunately, the Rangers didn't have Corey Seager to break up the no-hitter, and they didn't have a decisive misplay out there on leading to a Jonah Heim triple, but not a triple. They didn't get a insurance 2-run homer from Marcus Semien. Instead, all they got was 3 whole hits. 1, an infield squibber the opposite way from Josh Smith, and a couple of singles, one of them very hard hit, one not quite as hard hit from Wyatt Langford. 3 walks, 3 hits, 13 strikeouts, 0 runs, a whopping 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. And I believe both of those at-bats came because Wyatt Langford stole a base and gave the Rangers an opportunity with runners in scoring position. Actually, he stole 2 bases last night. One of them coming off of him, coming right back to the base on a sinking line drive by Adolis Garcia, where it looked like he might have jammed his ankle. I was a little worried because he was limping a little bit and had to go, walk it off, and the trainers came out there. But he ends up stealing a base, basically the very next pitch that was thrown to a batter. So turns out he's okay. Also made a great leaping grab out there in left field. Still boggles my mind that some people could see this uber athletic, uber talented young baseball player and say, no, there's no way this guy becomes even anything but a horrific defender out there in left field, a place where Mike Napoli in his 30s played a Major League Baseball game. We all saw it. And they said, that's about the quality of defender in left field Wyatt Langford's going to be. Maybe a little bit better. They gave him credit. But still a 30 grade on his defense and defensive now and future potential by Fangraphs is still one of the more bizarre things. They're a good prospect evaluation service, but that is still insane. The fact that Wyatt Langford has gone from subpar defensively in left field to at least par, if not above average, defensive outfielder in the corners, or at least in left field so far this season. Next year, I'm not exactly sure what the Rangers' plan for him is defensively. I think that he's probably going to start every day in center field. I mean, ideally, Evan Carter is there, and Evan Carter is healthy, and Evan Carter is given a chance to play every single day. And this back issue does not turn into a chronic thing. He ends up being fine. He becomes a multi-time All-Star, Hall of Famer maybe. I mean, we'll see. We're still getting a little ahead of things. But at least, healthy, above average, borderline All-Star, everyday regular in center field, 3 to 5 win player that I think Evan Carter very much still can be. And then you don't really worry about having to put Wyatt Langford in center field. He can just go out there and be pretty darn good in left field, or depending on what you want to do with right field, if Adolis Garcia moves into more of a DH type of role and you move Wyatt to right field, he's got the arm for it, and he will eventually have the power numbers, I think, to go for it as soon as next year. I mean, he's got the offensive potential to, be very much what you expect offensively from a corner outfielder, that kind of offensive production, and more than the offensive production you'd expect from an everyday center fielder, which I think he also can be. And then you'll have some options out there in left and right field, whether it's Ezekiel Duran, whether it's Josh Smith, whether it's those guys kind of platooning or getting options as needed, or if the Rangers want to keep going with Leote as the everyday center fielder. I don't think that is probably going to be what they go with next year. And you go Evan in left field and Wyatt in right field and Adolis at DH. You've got some options there. And the progress that Wyatt has made defensively in center field has been important. Him being a menace on the base pass is still a very, very fun thing. Watching Nate Eovaldi get lit up by what has been the hottest offense in Major League Baseball since the All-Star break. Not quite as fun, as is not quite as fun the news that the Rangers got about one of their pitching prospects going under the knife. No, It's not Kumar Rocker. No, it's Jack Leiter. It is Isaac Tiger. He underwent UCL repair surgery earlier this week, and he is expected to miss the entirety of the minor league season in 2025. He missed the first 2 months of this season due to elbow inflammation. He was having a pretty nice season so far, the Rangers' 7th-round draft pick last year. His fastball has been clocked at 100 miles an hour, also has a slider and a splitter. I am more bullish on him as a reliever than a starting pitcher, but still, it's still way too early to tell. Him missing a whole season of development is a huge bummer. He is not the only Rangers pitching prospect to go under the knife this season, but he is the one to have it happen most recently. The other one was Jose Corniel, who both of them missed the start of the season due to elbow issues, and then Corniel ended up having surgery, whereas Tiger was deemed healthy enough to go out and pitch this season. And, he had a good season overall. Ended his year in high A between 3 different levels. He pitched in 13 games this year, a 2.93 ERA, 46 innings pitched, and 59 strikeouts. The strikeout stuff is there. I think if the Rangers do want to bring him back as a reliever when he comes back from the surgery, I don't think they will. You got to stick with these pitching prospects as starters as long as they give you reason to do so. But I thought maybe if Tiger finished out the year healthy, that next year the Rangers could slot him into a relief role and he could be up in the major leagues as soon as next year. Alas, that will not be happening because he is undergoing this surgery. I wouldn't worry too much about his long-term prognostication changing because he's having elbow reconstruction surgery. It's just kind of an eventuality with pretty much every pitching prospect at this point. But speaking of pitching prospects, there was a really great feature in the Dallas Morning News that I want to talk very briefly on, as well as the Rangers' top position player prospect making his Double-A debut, right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is it's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 distinct player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks push their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my pick hits, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get your $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it is guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, I talked about this in depth on last Friday's show, but I declared this the year of Rangers pitching prospect development. I said it was the greatest year for Rangers pitching prospect development ever. I don't know if I have the authority to go quite ever, but I'm saying it. I'm saying it anyway, because this has been a massive, massive year, not just because of guys like Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, because up and down there have been so many success stories this year in a way that there very much haven't been at all, pretty much in the Rangers pitching development ranks. But there was this really great feature written by Sean McFarland of the Dallas Morning News that I read this morning about one of those less heralded pitching prospects who is having a great, great season. That is Cole Drake, the left-handed starting pitcher, the sexy southpaw, if you will, and I very much will. Drake is going to be the Rangers' leader in strikeouts for pitching prospects this year. He's got a 2.36 ERA across 3 different teams so far. 22 games pitched in, 18 of those have been starts, 103 innings, and 146 strikeouts to this point. He has been very, very impressive. He is very much a lefty starting pitcher with that pitch ability. He is listed at 6'5", 220 pounds. I'm not sure how accurate that weight is, because one of the things that Sean wrote, and go read the feature because it is fantastic writing and some really, really good insights. But one of the key insights that Sean found out about Drake and how he became so much better this year than he had been in years past. He was a very unheralded prospect. He was an 11th round pick back in the 2022 draft. The Rangers saw him when he was in high school. He didn't pitch all that much in college, bounced around a couple of different schools, very, very, very small schools, and really didn't pitch all that much. But this year he has been significantly more effective. He added a lot of velocity from, topping out in the upper 80s to this year he's, sitting in the low to mid 90s, which is a big, big difference. I mean, you don't need all that much velocity when you're a left-handed starting pitcher. We can see Cody Bradford as a success story there. But when you do add that velocity, it makes you that much better, and it makes him be able to live in the strike zone a little bit more frequently and be able to get that swing and miss and trust the stuff. And the way that he added that velocity, I found was very interesting. It wasn't a reworked delivery. It wasn't, tweaking in a pitch lab, his grip on the pitch or things like that. He just lost some weight. It was able to get him more efficient, lost 15 to 20 pounds. The Rangers, analyzed his body movements and things like that. And they said, well, if you shed some weight, you can be a little bit more efficient in how you get down the mound, and you will be able to throw the ball harder, and the velocity will be there, and the stuff will be better. And so he went into the offseason and lost the 15 to 20 pounds the Rangers asked him. He started coming out and seeing what the radar gun was saying is, oh, okay, all right, cool. And it has led to great, great success from him. He has been having a very, very good season. He's 24 years old, listed at 6'5", and I think he's got the potential to be a competent starting pitcher. Maybe it's the back end rotation. Maybe he's got a ceiling of a number 3 at this point. Not entirely sure, but I think there's definitely starting pitcher potential there. And whether he's a 3, a 4, or a 5, turning an 11th round pick into competent starting pitching is a huge, huge developmental win. But it's not just guys like him. I mean, you've got like 6 or 7 guys this season that have had such breakout years. That's why I said it's such a massive, massive win for the Rangers this year overall as an organization, despite the major league success being, to put it mildly. I mean, the bats in general, from the top of the organization at the big league level to, the minor leagues, haven't been all that great. But you have breakthroughs from guys like Rocker, Rosario, Leiter, Teodo, Santos, Bratt, Drake, and a little bit of Isaac Tiger as well. And there's probably a couple others that I'm forgetting to mention as well. But you just list off that many guys that have all had big steps forward. It shows you how much progress this team has made in figuring out how to develop pitching, something they have been terrible at for a long, long time. And if they can become competent, or dare I say good, that bodes incredibly well for this team in the long haul. But the hitting prospects this year have not been all that impressive on the grand scale in general. Friend of the show, Tepid Participation, tweeted this out last night. I believe it was last night. But talking about, hitting prospects this year have just not done well for the Rangers. He said he's not sure there is an everyday bat in this Rangers system outside of one guy. Of course, the Rangers' top hitting prospect, Sebastian Walcott, who made his big league debut, his Double-A debut last night, had his first Double-A hit, a double stung down the line. He has been having a great season, and for a guy from the Bahamas is not a huge baseball nation. It is not something that there is a hugely established culture like other places like the Dominican or Puerto Rico or even Cuba. I mean, there just have not been that many big leaguers from the Bahamas. There's been Jazz Chisholm. There has been Antone Richardson. Recently, Lucius Fox was a guy who was a top prospect in an international signing class, but Fox's career has not really gone anywhere near what the Giants were hoping for when they signed him back in 2015. I mean, you look at his career transaction log, he's 27 now. He's in the minor league system of the Nationals, not doing super well. I mean, about a year after they signed him, he was traded for Matt Moore to the Rays. And then in 2020, the Rays traded him to the Cardinals for Brett Phillips. And then you see selected from waivers off this and released by this team and signed with a free agent for the Chicago White Sox in February of 2024 of this year, and then got cut by the 2024 Chicago White Sox. So not a whole lot of history of success. Jazz really is the picture of success. The only other guy who has been in the big leagues longer than Jazz. I mean, Jazz has got 5 years of big league service time. There are only two other guys in Bahamian history to do that. That was Ed Armbruster in 1973 to 1977. And then Andre Rogers, 11 seasons from 1957 to 1967. So not a whole lot of history of Bahamian success, but Sebastian Walcott has been extremely successful this season and in his minor league career so far. And I misspoke earlier when I was talking about teenage starting shortstops for the AA Frisco Rough Riders. In the last 20 years, there have been two opening day everyday starting shortstops for the Frisco Rough Riders. There was Elvis Andrus in 2008, and in 2009 he was the AL Rookie of the Year runner-up. And then in 2012, Jurickson Profar, he made his debut in 2012. The big leagues, not just Frisco. But this kid has got all the tools in the world. He is very, very raw. And the question with him is always, can he stick at shortstop? He's 6'5". Is that going to be a guy who sticks at shortstop in the long term? Well, probably not, mainly because, he could be in the big leagues. I don't want to say that he could make the big leagues next year as a teenager. He's going to be 19 all season, but he has stated out loud to several reporters that that's a goal of his. That's something that he very much would like to do, is make the big leagues as a teenager, something that is very, very difficult and rare to do. I mean, it is something that has not been done in quite a while by any Rangers prospect. I think it was just Jurickson Profar that was the last one to do so, to make the big leagues that young. And I know Profar's career has been a little circuitous, but there was a time, and before all the random freak injuries and stuff, that, being compared to Jurickson Profar as a prospect is a high, high praise. And he has done a great job in Hickory this year. I mean, he was 18 for the whole season, still 18, doesn't turn 19 until March of next year. He's 4.1 years younger than the average player at that league, put up a 786 OPS, struggled mightily to start the year. And it's going to be a big, big challenge for him to be an everyday player in Frisco next year. It's a big jump, but one I think he's ready for. The ceiling on this kid is, potential multi-time All-Star. He's got all the raw tools in the world. He's showing more and more discipline. He's had a walk rate over 10% this season, a 342 on base. That's impressive for a guy who was a bit of a free swinger. Still will have some swing and miss in his game. The raw power is massive. His arm is absolutely massive, to the point where if he moves over to third base, which again probably not, because the Rangers have Josh Young pretty entrenched in there, or eventually to right field, which I think might be his long-term home. He's got the arm and the athleticism to play out there. Also, 26 stolen bases to 8 times caught stealing this year. He is a fast kid, and the ceiling is still there. The ceiling is just as high as it's ever been, and the floor is creeping up every so often, every at bat, every plate appearance that he has, that he's learning more, that he's getting better. The floor was guy who flames out in AA, and well, here he is in AA. And if he doesn't do that, and if he gets to AAA and has success there, great. I mean, he could be making his big league debut at some point next season if things go very, very well. Still a little cautious on that. Think that's maybe a bit much to ask for him. But in a season where there have not been a whole lot of hitting wins for the Rangers, Sebastian Walcott's development and making it to AA Frisco as an 18-year-old is a very, very great thing for this team. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.